Okay, so this is the Scan and Cut SDX 125. The Scan and Cut SDX 85 they're basically the same. Like the scanning is the same, the functionality is the same. The biggest difference is going to be the number of patterns that come preloaded with the machine and the size of this little screen right here. So on the 85, it's smaller than it is on the 125. Okay, so I zoomed in so we can see the screen a little bit better. And what we're going to do, excuse me, is we're going to cut out the tags from the Christmas cheer paper line. So these are set up to cut absolutely, they're set up basically to cut with the Scan and Cut. So we don't need to trace anything, because I know if you've watched any videos on how to do this, you'll see people tracing things. What we're going to do, I've got them on the mat. We're going to load the mat in the machine. And then we're going to click Direct Cut. And it's going to think for a second here because the mat's loading, and we're going to do it to the machine. Sorry, I went kind of fast there. And then tell it to go ahead and scan. And because I do have it set to color scan to quite a few colors, it is going to take it just a minute to kind of think and process here after it does its initial scan. So it is scanning right now. We're going to cut all of these out, so we're going to go ahead and leave that as is. And this is where it's recognizing everything that's there. And because I've got it set to color, and I've got it set to more than the default of 5 colors, it is going to take it a couple of minutes longer than it normally would. But that was because prior to this, I was trying to cut something else that had a lot of background color to it that does not want to cut as well. So while we're waiting on this, I will mention that the mats for the Scan and Cut DX series are specific to that machine. So they've got a bunch of registration marks. They come one to a package. Quite honestly, I think they're kind of pricey for, one mat per package. There's a regular grip. There's a low tack mat, which is what I'm actually using here. And quite honestly, they don't maintain their stickiness, I don't think, nearly long enough for the price you pay for these mats. But that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so it has perfectly picked up every one of those images on that tag sheet. So we don't need to edit or anything. We can do OK. It's going to process. We don't need to edit anything. We're not going to do an offset at this point. Click OK and then cut. And then it is going to go through and it is going to cut every single one of these tags out. And reposition the machine so you can kind of see what we're doing here. There we go. And right now it's just kind of reading and thinking, and then it will cut. And I will say too, the difference between this one and my older one, this one is so much quieter. It's just insane. Yeah, this one's so much quieter than the other one was, which was a really pleasant surprise, which Tamra has this exact one, and I used this one at her house, so I knew that, but it's been a few months ago, and I honestly had kind of forgotten. Yeah, so see, this is going to cut these out just beautifully. And then I'm going to show you a little trick. Hey, guys, sit down. Okay, so it's going to cut, but I'm going to show you a little trick here. And the key is going to be don't unload the mat. Okay? So let's give this just a second. Oh, I know what I was saying. The mats for the Scan and Cut are on the pricey side, and they don't last long as far as stickiness. You can wash them off. That will reactivate the stickiness to a point. I would suggest, getting like painter's tape and repositionable adhesive. You can do like the Zig two-way, like the big one. This one actually works really well. You can use pixie spray if you've got that, like if you do stencils and stamps and that kind of thing. See, look how perfectly those cut. Is that not just the coolest thing ever? So I'm going to pop these off really quickly. Just make a little stack here. And then we're going to go back in and we're going to mess with this just a teensy bit. And then we're going to do something else cool. Okay, so. All right, so what I'm doing, I'm not unloading my mat, but I am taking a piece of Black Artisan. Because I'm not unloading this, I'm really kind of thinking I need to tape this down. So give me 1 second, let me grab the tape. Okay, so I'm going to tape this on, and that's another option. I have seriously, like when cutting stuff with this, I just have washi taped my paper on here, and it works just fine. All right, so we're going to go back. We're going to click this little button with kind of like the loop on it to do an offset. And we're going to do just a tiny offset. We're going to go the 0.04 because that way it's going to cut one for everything on here. And we're going to go OK, OK. We're going to select cut and start. And what this is going to do is it's going to cut us a little tiny shadow layer to mount these on. Because it's already got the exact shape of all of those elements that we just cut out. It's already got that. So as long as we have not unloaded the paper, we haven't unloaded the mat, and because this spits this out enough, you can pull your paper and things off of the mat without actually taking the mat out of the machine, which is incredibly cool. That is not something you can do with the Cricuts. We're able to go back in, edit what it is we're trying to cut, and then cut this little offset piece for all of these little pieces. I had stamped and colored this little guy, and I cut him out, and then I did an offset layer with excuse me, 0.08, and I cut an offset layer for this one as well. So, and this primarily is honestly what I had gotten one of these for originally, was so I didn't have to keep buying dies that go with stamps. Or in this case where it's the stamp and there is not a die that goes with it, I don't have to sit and fussy cut this out. And this one does seem to scan faster than my older one. So, that was also a hugely pleasant surprise this morning when I got up and running today. Alright, so we're on the last couple of pieces here. It does give you a time countdown as far as how long it's going to take to cut, very similar to the way Cricut does in Design Space. This one seems to be more accurate than the cut time in Design Space. I will say that much. Another cool thing that this does do. This one also, the DX model, is the one that has the auto adjust blade, so it's not going to cut too deeply, which is really nice. So let me find these little guys, which I think is this bottom one down here. All right. So let me grab that one off. So here's our shadow layer. Here's our little thing. And you can see we've got that perfect border on there. So Very, very cool. I'll be back in a minute with a couple other things that you can make this machine do. So I've got a piece of black artisan on my mat. What I'm going to do is take a couple of images from a sticker sheet from a collection, and I'm going to put them on here and scan them. Okay. You want to space them out so when we add an offset, there's going to be enough room for your offset. Okay. So we're going to feed the mat in. Apparently I have lost my stylus. There we go. So we're going to do scan, direct cut to the machine, and click start. Okay, so you see they both came up on here. I'm going to frame that so it's only going to look at that top corner. Not where I had my little boo-boo a minute ago. Okay, and so it's framing those exactly. We're going to say okay. Then we're going to click our little offset button and we're going to add our outline. So 0.04, which is about maybe a 1/16 of an inch. Not quite a 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to go to 0.08, which is closer to a 1/16 of an inch. I could go out to 0.12. Here we do 0.08. That's usually about where, with like stamped images, I want them to go. We're going to say select, cut, and start. Excuse me. And this is something you can do as well with like the ephemera packs for the different collections. So these two stickers are from the Christmas Magic from Echo Park that I used to make my advent calendar wreath earlier. And this is going to cut right around where I have put those stickers down on my cardstock. Okay. Unload, and when you unload, it's going to tell you you could try to cut this again, but it may shift when you were to, if you were to put paper back on here and try to cut the same thing again. So it's going to make sure you actually do want to unload the mat, which we do. And I have now this perfectly matted sticker. How cool is that? It's basically the same concept as when you're doing, you know, like if you're doing a stamped image, which I didn't stamp out a bunch of stuff to show you guys, just because there's plenty of videos out on YouTube on how to cut out stamped images with the scan and cut. I wanted to show you, you know, of course, the cut aparts for Country Craft Creations, paper collections, and then, you know, my one other fun little trick that I'd learned a while ago on my older machine with the stickers. You can do that, of course. It'll work depending on the stickers you're using or the ephemera packs you're using. You can do it on white paper, but it's going to work better to do it something like this where it's more obvious where those edges are going to be, and then swap out your paper, especially if you're just doing, you know, especially if you're doing like the ephemera, because you can just use some temporary adhesive, put the ephemera down, scan it in, take your ephemera pieces off, and then cut those pieces for it so that you don't have to worry about accidentally cutting your ephemera. Okay, so just to wrap up, I wanted to show you, you know, of course, I've got my stamped image that I didn't demonstrate on camera, but, you know, same basic idea. I've got my two stickers from my collection kit over here that I put onto the black artisan, scanned, and then had the shadow layers cut for those. And then, of course, our cut aparts from Christmas Cheer that we cut those out, removed them without removing the mat, and then added that offset to what was scanned in put the black cardstock on the mat while the mat was still loaded in the machine, and then it cut those little shadow layers just perfectly for all of them. And I don't have the whole stack here with me. I've just got a couple of examples here that I pulled out that, I mean, like that one, come on, that one's a pain to fussy cut with those cute little, you know, scalloped edges like that. Not that I haven't done it, because I have, but there you go. You know, or the star. The star is a good one too, because that just lines up perfectly there. So there are some options for those of you who may have gotten a Scan and Cut for Christmas as to how to use it with a couple of things you may not have thought of. Thanks for watching. Bye.